Hey, this is Tom Medlock. I'm here for something a little bit different this time. We're going to do a graphics video. It's nice for a change to try something new. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to boot up the demo that I have right now, and you can see I enlarged the window just so we could get a better look at it. You can see here I got like a nice little temple in the middle of a forest clearing going on. I have the moon, I have the sun, I have the Mars, because who doesn't want Mars to be there, right? You can see the lights that are coming down there. They're reflecting off of the objects. You can see the light as it leaves. You can also see the red underneath here as it goes in. The blue for the moon, kind of like the day and the night, and then Mars is just there for good measure, because, you know, Mars is a great place to be, I think. So you can see here we got kind of like a little temple going on. We got the boxes, the textures are being swapped out. You know, I got the terrain. There is directional light, so if we go over here, you can see it gets lighter over here because this is the direction that the light is in. And then if we go over here, it gets darker because this is, you know, kind of the way away from the light source. The light's kind of going down that way. So this is kind of what I got going on. You can see the fog is in full effect against the terrain and even the skybox. I put the fog in the skybox just because I wanted to give it that, you know, that foresty clearing feeling thing going on. So I thought it would be kind of cool to try. You know, everybody else is trying skyboxes that are like mountains and whatnot, and I wanted to try something different. So I put on the forest skybox to see, you know, to see how that would work out for it. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and look at the code now. Up here you can see I make my skybox just a regular old skybox. You know, skybox is equal to new skybox. Pass in the device, the path for the file that you want the texture to be, and then the size. We're gonna go with 100. You can see also that the terrain is similar. I have the repeating textures. The height of the mountains, there's not very much height, but it kind of flattens out the larger that the terrain is. So I've got 100 size for there, 100 size for here. Pass in the height map for the terrain. And you can see up here that I also have the loaded models here. I did not use the dreaded cottage, have no fear. And then also the sphere, the pyramid, the box. I only used 3 different models because you can just reuse them. It's pretty easy. And you can see here that it's a preloaded model. So you know, those are all affected by the multiple light sources. Here I just created the different the different matrices to place each of the objects at. So you know, just down here all I do is I take the same object and I apply a new world to it. So that way, you know, you're reusing the same model, you're just applying the new world to it. You can see here also that I have 3 spotlights, 0, 1, and 2. These are the different, you know, the red one, the yellow one, and also the blue one. So those are the different ones. After our talk, I finally understood what you were talking about with the positioning of the cameras. I guess, you know, I just really needed to have that visualized for me. So once again, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for that. So other than that, the model class is up to date fully. You can see in here that the model class has you know, mesh numbers. I have some additional added normal for the terrain so that the terrain can add the normals together. Get vector for the terrain as well. I also had to add the number at the end just so that some of the models that were deprecate or older would also have, you know, a mesh to go with it, so it wouldn't, you know, crash when it goes in through the mesh separator. So then down here you can see you can also get your pre-made models, and you know, you just create your models. Geez, I'm not sure how to go about this video. So also I have the skybox here, and I think I showed you it already, but we can dive into that. You know, instead of taking a pointer to a texture, I actually just pass the path through. I figured, why have, you know, an extra person when you can cut out the middleman? The skybox creates its own shader here, and it kind of hangs on to it because it's going to be a texture. I don't really imagine there's going to be many other situations you're going to use it for anything different, you know. So I figure might as well just keep the same shader for it and handle that internally. Make sure you know, it's deleted at the end. Basically you can see here that the skybox is getting scaled by the scale that's passed into the the scale's into and it's actually in the header. You can see that it's getting scaled by the scale that is passed in, so float size. And then you go to the constructor and you can see that it sets the scale to size, and then it creates the skybox based on the scale that is passed in. Same thing with the terrain. If we go back into here, you can see the terrain is similarly constructed with a width and a height. The height is actually like, you know, the height of the mountains. That's right, because we're making an exactly square terrain. So you can see here that the plane width is just the width, and then it iterates through here, and it makes everything it's supposed to make. And you know, the UV is placed where it's supposed to be. The V is up here. You know, down here you can see that I did this normal. I mean, we went over this before because I had that big issue with the scaling it when I wasn't supposed to be scaling it. So this obviously works. It works well. Then also I have the shader classes down here. You can see that I have the light texture shader class, you know, the set directional pointers. I have all of these structures down here. You can see that I have an array of spotlights so that I can pass those in there. If we go into here, you can see that I pass the spotlights as arrays into the information gets passed into an array structure. And then here you can see that it gets assigned when I send down the light parameters. You know, and then down here, you know, I send it all down, including the fog settings, which were added in afterwards. You can see that I send it down here because this is when I have the eye position, so it's a good time to send that down. So you can see that I have all these different shader classes. They're all pretty much the same thing, you know. So they all have pretty much similar, you know, belongings. You know, the ones that are textures, the ones that have lights. They're all pretty similar. They have similar functionality. They, you know, the array of lights, you know, sent down together when it has the eye position, send the fog settings down. I also have the graphic object class up here. You can see that there's the base here, and then if we go over here, you can see that there's a graphic object texture light. And you can see that this is actually in action down here because up here all I have to do is create a pyramid object, graphic object texture light, pass in the shader, which is up here. It's created, the light texture is up here, and the model type. And then I set the texture, I set the material, and then down here you can see that all I have to do is call render on it, and it just renders. I don't have to do anything else because everything is stored within there. And you can see, let's actually take a look at the render. You can see that you know, it goes ahead through the meshes, or for each mesh, and it goes through and it sets everything, the shaders, to what they're supposed to be. It sends the buffers down and handles that. You can also see up here that I have a set texture for just a regular texture and a set texture for multiple meshes. So you don't really ever have to worry about meshes. Up here it's kind of automated as well. It handles any type of construction that, you know, if it has meshes, it'll go ahead and split it up and grab it. Oh gosh, I lost my way. There we go. So you can see here, there's nothing more that I have to call. I set the world only because I'm reusing the same object over and over and over again. So I just want to, rather than having 4 different objects, I just have one object and I just set the world each time. It's just a little bit quicker that way. So if we go back over here, you can see that, you know, this is all, you know, basically just sitting on top of the textures, sitting on top of the models. It just kind of handles the different the different details that need to be handled. And then, you know, color light, color texture, or I'm sorry, just texture. These are all things that are, you know, they're handled. They just kind of, you know, manage the system a little bit easier, make it so you don't have to call, you know, all of those different lines that were in the DX app before when we first started with it. So it's a little bit easier. So I'm going to run this one more time just so you can see my demo scene. I wanted to avoid the cottage and the frigate, but I was having a lot of problems with other models online, and it was really cutting into my time because I wanted to study for tomorrow and everything, and I had of course you knew I had the internship orientation tonight. So I just had a, you know, I had to put this together, and I didn't want to reuse the scene I had before that I showed you. I'm actually pretty proud of it. I thought it was cool. I think it's really cool. It's got this whole theme going on, you know, this temple of the sun type thing, this temple of like the astronomy type stuff in the middle of a forest clearing. I think it's really neat. I like it a lot. I was able to, you know, I didn't like the way the comets were, so I tried to repurpose them into something a little bit different. I was playing with the materials of it to try and get kind of like an evil, foreboding look out of it. So I'm gonna flip over to here really quick just to show you the mirror once more. And then I also do have a mirror class. So really quickly, you can see here, this is what we had worked on before when we were having problems with that reflection matrix. But you can see here now that it does work. When it's on this side, it doesn't reflect the light back onto this side. There is only one light being done, and it's being you know, reflected basically as it's supposed to be off onto the other side. So you can see here now that it does work as it's supposed to, which is really cool. I like it a lot. I would have liked to incorporate the mirror into my scene, but I just didn't have enough time to do it. So if we go over here into the DX app, you can see that down here I did create the mirror class, and you know, all you have to do here is basically you create your objects, and you put you render your objects here, and then what you do is you turn on the mirror stencil, and then you render everything on the other side. And basically you can call a function called pMirrorReflectObject, and it goes ahead and it actually reflects the object for you. And it does that by calling render reflection and passing through the reflection matrix. So it handles that in the actual object. And then here you can see that I'm setting this shader, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to reflect this light based off the reflection. And then here I'm also doing the same thing, and then for the direction, obviously. And then I'm also reflecting the cottage, and then I turn off the stencil. And then inside of turn off stencil, this handles, you know, the setting to context and rendering the mirror. And then what it does is it actually flips the windings back to the way that they're supposed to be. And then basically the whole cycle will just start over again. So, you know, this is basically, you know, minimizes the amount of code you need to put in the actual draw in order to create this mirror effect. So I'm happy I was able to do it in the assignment that I did it in. I am unhappy that what I wanted to do is I wanted to create like a lake effect, like kind of like play around with water a little bit, but I didn't, obviously not like physically recreate water, but like create like a horizontal mirror, like a big mirror, and like reflect like a scene, like as if it were reflecting off the water. But I just didn't have time to do that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for graphics, I guess. The dreaded final project. But thank you very much for watching, and you have a good night or a good day.